Okay, good morning. I just wanted to re-record another video just to clarify the message I gave yesterday, which was a security warning for New Zealanders, because I wouldn't want you to die because you can't listen because of the colour of my lipstick. That would be terrible. It's good to get the feedback from everyone asking for clarification because that's what I hope to give you in this video. Okay, so please take a look at the DOC pesticide summary, the DOC website, doc.gov.nz, and the pesticide summary. You should see that, quite rightly, as a chemical weapons program against you and your people. Okay, they are dropping toxic chemical weapons grade nerve agents directly in your waterways, your rivers and your streams. What you need to do when you look at that website, after much complaining earlier this year to every DOC office about how if I was 80 years old I would never ever be able to get through their geo-mapped location presentations of that website to know when I would be poisoned when I went for my bushwalk. So they've kindly updated the website for me with a little bit more information and the summaries that I suggested. Thanks, Mr. Sanson. And these summaries tell you in your area when they plan to put these toxic chemical weapons grade nerve agent poisons in your water. Now, what you need to be aware of then, where does your town water supply come from? Because what happens when 1080 goes in the water, they will tell you it dilutes, but what happens is it metabolizes. Now, the science says very little is known about all the outputs, but one of the outputs is a killer citrate molecule that kills your cells. Your cells cannot absorb the light and energy and transform into food. Your cells, depending on your DNA, you will have all sorts of outcomes, but your reactions will be ranging from heart attacks to cancers, motor neuron disease. You will have miscarriages. There's so much evidence by affidavit of immediate miscarriages through proximity to this poison. There is a reason for the health epidemic in New Zealand. It's 1 + 1 = 2, an additive to our ecosystem that is a deadly, deadly killer. Sorry, a combination of these. We have 5 A1 classified World Health Organization extremely hazardous poisons being used indiscriminately across our ecosystem, dropped by aerial spray. Imagine if you heard of any other country in the world who were aerial spraying by schedule, by a manifest pattern of statements and orders, their people's water supply. I mean, you definitely hear the word dictator, you'd hear the word war, perhaps some bombs would be dropped to stop it. That is happening by schedule in New Zealand, okay? So you need to become aware that since the beginning of time, groups of men have stolen countries, and they've done that through deceit. Now, trying in Syria, which was the 4th safest country in the world in 2011 to travel, they have clearly failed. I mean, it doesn't matter how horrible the terrorists are that they send there, probably with the help of our Whenua Pai communications pods, those white things, whatever they call them, as they supposedly helped in the Iraq War. But I'm digressing. Anyway, the point is that look at your regional council websites. They also have extensive poisoning regimes. Your regional councillors are responsible for votes to spread this poison all over your ecosystem. Your medical officers of health are responsible for authorizations to spread this poison all over your ecosystem. Okay? This does not dilute in water. It absorbs into plants, trees, microorganisms, the maggots that try and break down, decompose the bodies of the animals that die and are left all across the bush. They die too. This is a serious attack on the right to life of New Zealanders to use these poisons. Now, I have an International Criminal Court argument. I didn't write, some people post, it is a bit frustrating for me to read. No, she wrote a letter to the International Criminal Court. No, I have spent the last 7 years of my life and dedicated to interpreting the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court against environmental destruction crimes, and I've done it around the world. Okay, so I have 3 cases in the Amazon rainforest to stop the destruction of the rainforest, 1 at the coral reefs to protect the coral reefs in Australia, where within a week of my claim against Tony Abbott, he was removed from power. In a backroom move. I had one against the directors of Shell, and within 2 months of the court accepting my argument for review against them, the directors of Shell voluntarily and completely abandoned the conduct of the crime. Now, that's what's really important to know here as well. all of those individuals, whether they are the leaders, Jacinda Ardern, the Queen, and Patsy Reddy, or they are the subordinates of those leaders in any level, they are responsible for their own decisions to cause this harm against you and your families and your ecosystems. So, you know, there is a difference between the New Zealand law, which has systematically been changed to obstruct any to give impunity and to obstruct any accountability for this crime for years, especially under Helen Clark and John Key, and now Ardern, who has ramped up this poisoning program. The budget that she has sanctioned is the largest ever. And the radicalisation of New Zealanders towards this killing regime is just, it's really beyond words. It really does remind me of Chairman Mao, where he rallied all the young people in the country to kill all the sparrows, and there was a plague of insects. So, that's the kind of thing that's happening here. Communism kills. And every time it's been tried, it also fails. So let's go back to plague. If these poisons drop next week, you will have dead bodies of animals. It kills everything and everything in its path, from the microorganisms to the birds to the bats to the wildlife, animals, livestock in the surrounding rural areas. It kills everything. Okay, and then it transfers through air drift and water supply and through the agriculture system to your produce. So be very careful what you're eating. Go on that pesticide summary. Know where the stock is coming from, where you're eating the meat from. Farmers know if they're about to attack you with 1080, they are going to devalue your meat. Okay, they are going to devalue your milk. They are going to devalue your farms. Lake Taupo, I grew up swimming in that, so it was beautiful. Now it's toxic algae poison, and they have dropped poison all through the Tongareros that has come down and killed the lake. 1 + 1 = 2. Deadly toxic poison to the quantities that can't be metabolized in the natural bodies of the humans or the natural bodies of the environment will mount up in toxicity. It's a bioaccumulation. It will mount up and it will cause death and destruction. That is what is happening to our rivers. So when the person who is poisoning you is campaigning and saying we need swimmable rivers, and then she goes and issues a budget and directive to mass poison you, you have a person who is now alleged criminally liable for that conduct. Okay, so this is incredibly serious, and I think because there is a serious amount of fear involved in this crime, where people are afraid to stand up and stop it and use their power to stop it. So there are people who are against it. They get persecuted, harassed. We have a sickness in this country, and there is a reason for our health epidemic. And so the reason I decided to release that video yesterday is because the government are not going to tell you. Because what they're afraid, and what different members of parliament have been evidenced to have been afraid of during their time in Parliament whilst this death program against you has been run. It's a long-term, patient, insidious, sophisticated eugenics program, genocidal extermination. Call it what you like, but when you put an additive in an ecosystem that causes people's cells to die and mutate and cause cancers and diseases and heart attacks and everything else, then it is a death program, and that is what is occurring against this country every time these chemicals are dropped. So I mentioned puha and watercress, and the reason is because it's a very porous chemical. So, they're very porous plants. So when this chemical is dropped in the rivers where that grows, and then it absorbs and it holds that deadly citrate molecule for a really long time. There are studies that say perhaps indefinitely, until you consume it and it starts working on your cells. So when I say be careful of your puha and watercress, I mean, look at the DOC website, look at the regional council's poisoning programs, see where they have used this over the years, because it may stay in that watercress and puha for years. Okay, but definitely, if my court orders do not come through from the High Court or the ICC to set this poisoning aside until the courts can look at the evidence and decide upon the evidence, then you need to be vigilant for your own health, because your government is going to protect their pretend economy, which is also potentially exporting, depending on where the produce is coming from, deadly, deadly, deadly produce all over the world. And we need to reconcile this. This is a crime. It's not our fault. We need to own it. But we also need to look at the ways that we can finance the farmers through it. Price supports, financing for transitioning to regenerative organic systems. We need to own this because in 7 years we can regenerate the land and mostly heal. And that's what we need to look to do. You know, they're really, and who is instrumentalizing all these young Māori women to come onto my wall and say that I want the land? I am the land. You are the land. We are not separate, okay? We are one pulsating membrane. That means you and I are together in the membrane. Okay, you see separation, I don't. Okay, I grew up in an area, I think I was one of 2 white girls. I'm gonna tell the Māori story because I think this is really important, okay? You need to get your perspective on. I didn't know the difference. I'll tell you what though, my family owned a lot of land, and the Māori girls that I was friends with, who I didn't see any separation or difference with, but of course they lived in state houses, so I get it. You know, there was a war in our history. There were Europeans who came here and took land, okay? And there were also a lot of Māori who took land off each other and shot each other once they traded and got those guns. There was a massive Māori land war. So, you know, that leads me to today. Michael Fay divested my family of all my land. My land. So I had it because a war was fought and a war was lost and a war was won. So, you know, voila, that's what happens all over the world. Michael Fay divested my family of all my land, and that came after I had done a 3-year development to transition the dairy industry to sustainable organic regenerative systems. And I had, you know, 120 million from the ANZ, 50 million from Graham Hart. I've said this before, and a lot from international. And it was sabotage. And then my life was sabotage. And the reason I say this is really important because I understand the dairy industry inside out. And I know that this poison is what is causing a lot of the health consequences on the animals that are then being marketed to you as biosecurity narratives. And I don't just know that. I've talked to all the farmers at the ground level, many of them who have been quarantined and are put on gag orders from MPI so that you never know that all of the stock were healthy. No stock are sick. And the first 2 farms that were affected very, very arguably by sabotage, because this country is the headquarters of chemical weapons poisons in the world. There is potentially no one with greater stockpiles of chemical weapons than us other than the US. I mean, seriously, that's how serious this problem is. So let's go back to my Māori story because I want to make this story, okay? We are all immigrants in this country. And if you can't reconcile that, go back and read your history because it says you came on canoes or boats. Okay, it also says original people were Māori and redheads. That's me and you together. We were all original people on this land, but not the permanent populations of this land, okay? The first residents of this land were the birds. Well, let me tell you something. Other than the people who came on canoes and boats, there were people who came on planes. Okay, and those people who came on planes thinks it's a very good idea to return this ecosystem to its original state. Let me tell you, that means all the predators are gone. Who are the greatest predators? You and me, the ones from canoes and boats. Gone. Because when you put a chemical weapon in someone's water supply for years and then your new government comes in and smiles your assassination with mass increased quantities in your water supply, yes, you and I will die quite quickly. Okay? So here's the thing. I didn't understand when I came back to New Zealand why suddenly all these Māori people were telling me, go home to Europe. I'm like, well, I have just been in Europe, that's true. But my family's been here for generations, and, you know, America, you know, they don't own the moon because they say they got there first, because Russia got there before them, you know. You don't own land because you get there first. Let me tell you something. If I had the attitude of a lot of Māori that are coming on my wall and where I expect all the land of my forefathers to be given back to me, let me tell you, I would be an island crying for my fucking castle. Excuse my language, but, you know, I mean, the great grandfather of Anne Boleyn same seat as me. I mean, I would, why aren't I running the world as the Queen right now? Seriously, because that's my bloodline too. So, and I've got castles all over Ireland that I want back. Now, do you think if I go to Ireland and cry and fight and ask for those back, I'm going to get them back? No, I am not. Because wars are fought and land is transferred. The Catholic Church have stolen and transferred land for years. This is going to be very difficult for you all to hear, but who came to this country first is not the issue. Wars were fought, wars were lost. They were fought between your kind and our kind. We are not our great-grandmothers, okay? We are here now. Now, very difficult for you to hear what I'm saying. I understand that. But, please feel free to send all your comments and I'll block you. But unless you come to understand that we all grew up together, we all drank that water, we are the same, and unless we work together as New Zealanders to stop this poisoning program, we will be exterminated. That is the result of a mass of chemical weapons scheduled for delivery into your water and food supply, okay, by the people who came on planes. Sorry, by the people who came on private jets. These people are situated abroad. Now, what do they do with their money? Well, they make sure they trigger the new generations of Māori to feel like they're not depressed or hopeless or angry because of the 1080 in the water, which chemically alters their brain to be that way. And us, everyone, all of us, the same. But they are giving you a narrative to go for, which is, this is my land, we were here, this is my spiritual land, we were here first, you want the land, give it back. That's absolute bullshit, excuse my language, but you weren't. You were from Hawaii. You came on canoes. Congratulations. White people came on boats. We all settled. Wars were won. Wars were lost. Now we've moved on. We are one people. We are one people. And if you are so superficial that you think the colour of your skin matters when it comes to survival and the aspirational qualities of life here, peace, laughter, love, security, safe food, safe water, that is not skin or race exclusive. Sorry, every single person in this country wants that state. Security, peace, their families to be protected. Your government is putting a chemical additive in your ecosystem which is destroying your bodies, your minds, your families, your health, your security, your country, your primary industries. The state sector are completely involved. Regional councils, medical officers of health, they are all absolutely fearful. Who runs this country? Who runs this country right now? Because it is not the people you see parading around and smiling you to your death. However, they are criminally responsible for this crime. So, I want to address that because it's really important. If you keep fighting with division and you see white people, brown people, we're all going to lose, basically. At the end of the day, New Zealand can be adjusted to a political system where everyone has advantage, everyone has the same rights, everyone has possibilities if you work for it, Don't expect handouts. Don't be the victim who says, give me everything back. It was never yours in the beginning. Who did you take it from? Because they're all dead. Okay? So let me just have that. Let me just put that out there. I don't know. I'm very honest, so that's difficult for a lot of people to hear, and I'm sure it's easier for you to hear today because I've, worn a different coloured lipstick, which is very important to the small-minded misogyny that happens in this country. But what you should be listening to is my words, which is, we are under attack for years and years and years. Groups of men have stolen countries. If this poisoning program continues, that is a very likely outcome, okay? There was a great president called President Kennedy. He said there was a plan to enslave every man, woman, and child, and before he was out of office, he would stop them. He was then shot. Many other great leaders in history have identified these people and what they're doing systematically to destroy families, to destroy your minds, to destroy your peace, to cause division, to cause civil wars, to cause race wars. Well, I have a little bit of vision too. And what I have seen in my visions is that if these people continue to attack the people of New Zealand, you won't need ISIS in this country because the communities will become ISIS. They will not allow you to poison their families. Okay? That is what I see. It's a creative vision. It's not my creation, it comes, okay? And people will start defending their families if you start putting poison on their water at all anymore. So in order to avoid that sort of state of violence occurring in New Zealand, I have put these claims to the court, and I have asked that the order is given to preserve New Zealanders from this harm being inflicted, all New Zealanders, the one pulsating membrane of all of us, regardless of skin, and let, you know, I'm not even going to go into that issue anymore, but I can talk on it a lot, and I will in the future, because it's small-minded, you know. Leave it alone. The people who are attacking you are not the people you're fighting and attacking. The people who are attacking you are ones of great money, great power. They have a grip on all the power centres in New Zealand that allows them to continue this poisoning on your ecosystem. So you need to start looking after your families. You need to start looking at the water you drink. When that molecule goes in the water, it restructures the water to be a killer. You need to restructure that water, so before you drink it, not from the tap. Not boiling it doesn't work, okay? Boiling it, in fact, I've been told, suggested, and I don't have evidence of this yet, but it could make it more carcinogenic. So protect your water, know your food source. Oh, I had this epiphany this morning. Oh, now I know why they are so adamant that they want to control the NATE database, because the NATE database will tell them where the stock came from. The NATE database will tell them what stock has been affected by 1080 and what hasn't. So they know what steak to eat, what's safe, what sandwich to eat that won't give a heart attack to a young person in Hamilton or in Auckland. How many young people are dying of heart attacks with no explanation? Well, that doesn't happen. It's called 1080 and other chemicals in your ecosystem that is killing you. Okay? Now, I think that's probably the main feedback I have. Be aware of the poisoning programs in your area. Be aware of your water supply and where it's coming from. Be aware that you should restructure your water supply, because this molecule can stay alive forever, whole forever. It's a killer, and it's been spread all over the country for a number of years. But the new quantities which my claims are currently holding off, you know, and God, let's hope that it continues to hold it off. They are really, really deadly quantities of poison. You will have effects. There are affidavits I've read of people who have just had absolute devastation of their lives, quick cancers, quick deaths in the family when this stuff has been sprayed directly on their farms or ground laid. Not only aerial dropped, but ground laid. Okay? This is the crime of the century. And I have been around the world at the coalface of similar crimes for years, working on a specialist legal argument to stop them, and to return home and walk into this situation is some sort of serendipity, because it is clear that there's a reason I took the path that I did and arrived back here at this time with the work to potentially protect, but we will see. So I'll keep you posted if I get a court order, and if I don't, make sure you know what's happening in your community with these poisons.